And I would like to just welcome everybody to this workshop. I'm the director of the Grand North American Old Time Fiddle Championship, which is hosted every year by the Wild Rose Old Time Fiddlers Association. And it's my real pleasure to welcome everybody to this, I think the first ever workshop that I know of that specifically keys in on how to prepare for a fiddle contest. So
Ken, I believe you're muted.
sorry, was I muted the whole way or did I mute myself?
Oh, you must have muted yourself somehow.
All right, did anybody pick any of that up?
Start 2 sentences ago.
Okay. I was going to say I'd like to invite everybody to come and join us at the Grand North American Old Time Fiddle Championships on July 17th and 18th in online. So hopefully you can all come out and join that. You'll hear lots about it through our Facebook page and also at the Wild Rose Old Time Fiddlers Association website. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening for this workshop, none other than world famous Mark Sullivan. Mark comes from Vancouver, BC, and he's, as everybody knows, an amazing fiddle player, three-time Canadian Grandmasters champion fiddler, puts on dozens of events and just is such a great guy. And I love the quote that Calvin Bolrath said, that he is a true master of his craft. And so I'm really, it's a real pleasure to have Mark moderating this. And so I'll just like to hand it over to Mark and tell everybody to have a great time tonight.
Thanks so much, Ken, and welcome to everyone. How nice to see so many familiar faces and everyone joining us here from coast to coast for this great event. So thanks so much for supporting the Wild Rose Fiddle Association. I'm Mark Sullivan, very happy to be co-hosting this evening with you with so many great fiddle players here. To keep company this evening. So thank you. We're going to get started here quite promptly and jump into our first topic of discussion with three terrific fiddle players. But before we do that, just a couple housekeeping items. I'd like to request that everyone stays muted throughout the evening. If you have questions or comments, please put them into the chat, and there will be several of us that will be monitoring the chat, and I'll be looking at it and trying to pick up your questions and your comments, and I'll include them in the discussion here, and I'll just be guiding the panelists and the speakers, and hopefully we can answer everyone's questions and also share some tips from all of our experience as well. So if you could just stay muted and put any questions or comments that you have into the chat, that would be most helpful. Of course, this evening, if you feel so inclined, there's an opportunity to donate to the Wild Rose Fiddlers Association to support them with initiatives just like this, including their upcoming fiddle contest. A big thank you to all the panelists for coming out here tonight and giving their time. And it looks like we've hit 100 people this evening, which is just wonderful. So let's get started. And it is my pleasure to invite three very well-known names in the Canadian fiddle world and beyond. Coming to us from Quebec is Mr. Louis Schreier, a Canadian Grandmasters fiddle champion, 4 times, Canadian Open fiddle champion, a legendary Canadian fiddle player. So welcome, Louis Schreier.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure to be here. Certainly is.
Great to have you, Louis. And I'd like to welcome from Manitoba, you all know her very well, Canadian fiddle champion and just prolific Canadian old-time fiddler, Patty Kustruck. Welcome, Patty.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. Great to be here and see all these faces.
Thanks so much for joining us, Patty. Just going to get you spotlighted here in a moment. Where are you? There you are. And finally, our third panelist for this conversation to kick things off, coming from very close to my house here in British Columbia. He's an award-winning fiddle player. Participated at the Canadian Grandmasters Fiddle Contest, was a finalist, but he is a BC Fiddle Player of the Year, Canadian Country Music Fiddle Player of the Year, just a terrific musician, great guy, wonderful player. A big welcome to Mr. Mike Sanishin. Hi, Mike.
Hey there, Mark. Thanks, everyone. My pleasure to be here.
Great to see you, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we're going to jump right into a discussion here for the next 30 minutes, and we'll try to hold nice and tight to our time frame so that we can get in our three topics this evening. But we're going to start off and talk about fiddle contests and what are some of the things that judges might be looking for, and how does one go about selecting the right tunes for a Canadian fiddle contest? We certainly know that can be a lofty pursuit. There's so much music out there today. So how do we zero in on the types of tunes that would be appropriate for a fiddle contest and probably pleasing to the judges? That would be nice as well. And what a treat here to have three former competitors who are still at the top of their game, but certainly were at the top of their game as competitors, as fiddle contest players, to be able to share their experiences. So I'm going to turn things over to Patty to kick things off, and we'll go from there. And again, questions, comments, just put them into the chat. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thanks, everybody. I'm just getting some text here. Mark, just a heads up, I got a text from Yvonne. She can't get in. It says that you've reached the 100-person limit, so I don't know if that's a thing. Or...
Yes, we're on the Wild Rose Fiddle Association's account, and they have a limit of 100 people. So
okay.
When that comes around, we'll deal with that when we get to that next time. Thank you.
Right, yeah, she's just frantically texting. Anyway, I've been entering fiddle contests since I was about 7 years old, so that was at least 20, 30 years ago. No, it was like 43 years ago. And that was always a big thing when Mark asked if I could talk about picking tunes to play. I said, oh yeah, for sure, because that was always a huge thing. And I'd always ask a lot of people about, what I can possibly do and how to pick tunes, and I got a lot of advice, and some was better than others, of course, but a few things that I came away with about that was pick tunes that you're really comfortable playing. First off, you don't want to pick out tunes that are going to be tough to play for you if you're not ready for them. If you want to pick out tough tunes, that's great, but just make sure that you're ready and practiced up. I would always pick at least one of my tunes. Usually my middle tune would be a tune that I could play in my sleep, I called it. And I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to worry about whether I was going to hit that funny little passage in the middle or anything. It was a tune that I could just play and not even worry about it. For me, nerves came into it too. And you're going to be hearing some people talk tonight about how to get your nervous feelings under control, and that was always a part for me, so I always took that into consideration. You want to be comfortable and not freaking out on that stage. So contests are fun. Number one, they don't mean a whole lot in the big scheme of things. It's three people's opinions on any given day. And it doesn't mean that because you won, you're better than the next guy or whatever. It's just that certain day, those three people, that's what their opinion is as to who played the best at that given time. So you don't need to go in there with all these expectations saying, well, am I the best or is he better than me? And, just let all that go. Turn it into a fun thing. When I was a kid entering contests, it wasn't about the competition. As a matter of fact, my mom would often have to come and find me in a back room where I was jamming with my friends or, sitting around talking with my friends and said, Patty, you got to get on stage, get up there. So, I really didn't worry a whole lot about the pressure, but choosing tunes, it came down to, I would think about contrasting keys for tunes. If I played a waltz in D, I might go into a jig in a flat key, maybe F or B flat, and then a reel in a brighter key, A. or, you know, switch that around. As I got older, I really enjoyed playing reels in B flat. So I played a lot of reels in B flat. So maybe my jig would be in D or A or a brighter key, and play a waltz in C or F, you know, something that's a little bit contrasting. Personally, I never chose tunes that were minor. Just never happened. I don't know why. There was no reason really, but that just was never. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but personally, that wasn't something that I did. So I would pick a waltz that I felt comfortable playing, and waltzes were never really my forte. Waltzes, I found there was a lot of other fiddlers that had better vibrato than me, that had better expression than me. So waltzes were kind of like my weaker point. So I would pick something that I felt comfortable with and that I could swing and, you know, make danceable. I always thought danceable when I was playing. And the jig was always that tune that I felt I could play in my sleep. I didn't have to think about it. And then that would kind of mentally prepare me for my reel. That was usually a little harder, usually in B flat, like I said. And then when the tune of choice came out in recent years, that was really something to think about too. So you want something that, again, you feel comfortable playing. That, and another thing that I always thought of was I tried not to pick tunes that everybody else was playing. I've been to contests where I've heard, and not that it's a terrible thing. Remember when you're Masters, I think I counted 12 people played the Festival Waltz by Kenny Baker in the preliminaries, or maybe it was Pembroke throughout the weekend or something. But it just seemed like, wow, there's that waltz again. Beautiful waltz, but you know, you just hear it over and over and over. So I always tried to pick tunes that maybe other people didn't play. So I'm going to stop with that. I'm pretty sure that Louis and Michael have some great info as well. So
Thanks so much for that, Patty. I love that you mentioned comfort, the comfort with the tunes, and particularly a waltz. I was just reading a quote the other day about golfing, and this person was talking about getting jitters on the first tee. How do you overcome your nerves? And this person's response was, "Don't try anything new. Don't try to be a hero. Just relax, do what you've always done. Swing the club. That is not a time to try something new." So having a waltz that you're comfortable with to get started is super important. Thanks for that. And the tip about contrasting tunes, contrasting keys and complementary keys is pleasing to the ear for those listening. And also, I think as a player, when you're playing things that complement each other, I think you're probably far able to get into the tune more, a bit more inspired. It's even easier to listen to for yourself when you're playing. So thanks for those tips. That's really neat. I'm going to pass it over to Louis Schreier to share some tips.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Patty, that was well done. You covered quite a bit there. And, I'm going to try not to repeat very much of what Patty said. I'm going to try to give you some other information. But the idea of picking tunes for a competition. I can remember back in the day. You remember those cassettes, and I'd be recording contest after contest, and I'd be recording jam sessions. But then there'd be the odd time I'd hear these. Oh, that's a good jig, or that's going to be a good reel, and I'd set those aside. So, and we have devices now that can do that. So, when you have that opportunity to when a tune catches your attention, you say, "Oh, I got to get that down," and that might be a possible tune for a competition. So, yeah, back in the day, I used to do lots of listening, and I'd pick out a couple of waltzes to listen to, a couple of jigs, a couple of reels, and I'd often learn them all. And then at that point, I'd say, okay, well, which one am I going to feel most comfortable? It's like picking a good set of cards when you're playing a card game, right, Mark? And so with that said, picking the correct tunes, first of all, comfort. You want to feel comfortable with it. And as Patty mentioned, and if you're going to work them and work them and work them, you're going to want to enjoy the tunes too. So make sure you pick tunes that you actually like playing. You don't like, and you don't mind listening to them over and over and over. You don't mind playing them over and over, and it grows. It just gets to the point where it just grows on you. And when you get to that point, where you're extremely comfortable with the tunes, then you can start working with them by shaping them a little bit. And what I mean by shaping them, I'd often start my waltz and play along, and if I have the repeat happening, I would try to avoid repeating the exact same beginning. I would try to change it just a little bit, even if it's just a timing or a tempo, or sorry, just a timing or rhythm change. It's enough to keep the tune fresh. And so that's, a nice little piece of advice that I do give to a lot of my students, and I do work them when we get to that point where, you go from one part to the part, another part. Wow, you still have my attention. I love this tune. You don't get tired of it. And, when you can keep the attention of the listener while you're playing these tunes, you're doing your job. You're doing the right job there. I like the fact, Mark said, don't try anything new. And he's right. I've been caught. I've done that, and it backfired on me. And it was not fun. So it's something you want to just know. Let's not do that right now. So again, picking 3 tunes: your waltz, your jig, your reel. You want to feel good about them. And danceability is a big thing as well. I mean, they have to be danceable for me as well. For when you're competing. And then something else to consider when you're, once you get comfortable with your waltz and your jig and your reel, try to select the right tempo. And sometimes, selecting that right tempo allows you to fall into the pocket of the tune, and it just kind of rolls out on its own. And sometimes that's hard to find, but if you can find that, and then sometimes you find it with somebody accompanying you, and then you test it out a little bit. Oh, let's just try it just a hair faster or just a hair slower, and then you'll catch that tempo that you're going to be comfortable with. And from tune to tune, it's gonna differ. I think it's gonna be different at times. So something else to keep in mind. I know this. I'd love to, talk about more. I have a bunch of other things in my mind as well here, and I know we're going to about 9:30 here. I know Mike is going to probably speak of it. So how about I'm going to, give it back to you, Mark, and then let Mike speak a bit.
Thanks
And
so much, Louis.
I'd love to say some more if there's some time afterwards. Okay.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for the questions there. Okay, we'll get to those here in just a moment. And I believe that there is a link now on the Facebook page for those, if you're aware of anyone who can't get access to this call. I think they are setting up a stream here as well, or they are trying to, so keep that in mind. But thanks so much for those comments, Louis. Certainly Louis has been just a prolific competitor in the fiddle contest scene here in Canada, and has worked tirelessly over the years preparing young kids for fiddle contests. So what I'm hearing a lot about is preparedness and putting the work in, practicing before competing. So thank you for that, Louis. Mike Sanishin, can you share some thoughts with us, please? Nice to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. Thanks, Mark, and thanks everyone. The points that Patty and Louis brought forth just recently are great points, and I'll probably touch on a little bit of that as well. I find that picking the right tempo is so key, just like you were mentioning before. Louis was saying that, and same with Patty. I remember when I was about 8 years old, just starting out to play the fiddle, and I entered my first contest at age 9. I thought the faster the better. So I got on stage, and I had one tempo in mind, and then really when the red light went on and my heart started racing and I realized what was happening, my tempo got away with the races. It was crazy. I remember listening, and I still have the cassette tape to this day. And it's just funny. I laugh a lot too when I hear it, actually. But it's another good point. The more comfortable you are, the better it's going to be. And I know I'm repeating myself here with what the two others just said, but I like to say, basically, if you can be on autopilot, if you can know the tunes so well that when you're going into, I know Patty said the fiddle contest is all about fun. It sure is, but it's you're out of your comfort zone. It's not like your normal situation. You're in front of a crowd, you're under a microscope, and it's hard not to get into your head. And that's a battle that a lot of people fight, and I fought it too when I was competing, and I still do sometimes. But I just find if you just know the tune so well and you just go in there, you're on autopilot, that's the best situation you can be in, the best scenario. So I remember just pretty much just kind of locking myself into a room and practicing nonstop for hours. I'm sure like this is how everybody kind of does it. You work it and work it until it becomes so second nature. People start throwing stuff at you and you won't even flinch. Hopefully that won't come to the case, but I just think it's really important. I was very fortunate when I was growing up to have some mentors, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well, like Patty and Louis did too, and just fiddle friends and fans and mentors that collected music, and they said, hey, check out this tune. And that was back in the day when things weren't just so instantaneous. There was no internet, there was no easy access. So getting a compilation tape or getting a mixtape made for you, and with all these obscure great tunes on it, that's what I found was just so cool to me, because we'd share sheet music between the Fiddlers Club, and you wouldn't just go online and download it because it wasn't there. You either go to the store to buy it, or you get it, sharing it with your friends and fiddle fans and stuff. So I just found it was a really invaluable thing for me to have people looking out for me. And that just shows you what the fiddle community is all about, right? It's about sharing. And so, finding some mentors, trying to maybe pick their minds about things, attending workshops like you are today is great. I also want to say too that when you're working over the tunes, record yourself, and you could judge your own self as it's happening. So that's the true test. Before you go out there and do a dry run, record yourself, listen back, play it for your friends and family. Go and do a rehearsal and ask people's opinions, and that's another valuable way to do things as well. I also want to touch on that, what you guys were saying earlier about transitional keys, and you don't want to pick three tunes in the same key necessarily, because there's no change to it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. You can do that. You could probably play it like perfectly like the book. But if you want to create something different, you want to look at different keys, contrasting keys. You also, with the advent of the new competition nowadays, with adding a fourth tune or changing up the order, you want to think about just transitional chords going from one tune to another too. You could set yourself up, and it's going to really be exciting. So you could look at that as well. And that's what I found that I was able to do on a regular basis, is when I prepared my tunes, I try to do something a little bit different. Like Louis was saying, you try to keep to the form, but if there's a little ornament you can add to it to make it classier. If you could perhaps like even slow down a little bit when you're doing a transition, that creates someone's ear to perk up. Not that it's going to affect with the danceability or anything like that, but also even incorporating double stops into the fold too. But you have to be careful when you are doing that. You're going to nail it, because your chances, if you're not comfortable doing double stops, that's where the tick marks are happening with the judges on our end. If we're going to start hearing intonation going down the tubes, if you're not in a situation that you're not comfortable in, that's probably one of the first things to go, is your left hand and your intonation. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great points here, and yeah, that's about all I have to say for that at the moment, but I'd be happy to add some more too if there's extra time.
Great. Thanks so
back at
much,
it.
Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I should note here as well that, not only were Louis, Patty, and Mike prolific competitors, but they're judges as well, and respected judges. So, so this is great feedback. And, I love that you mentioned having fun as well, Mike, and the community part there too. But specifically, judges, what are they looking for? The danceability, right, and the accuracy of the playing all throughout, which seems to be a common theme. I'm just going to fly through some of the questions here in the chat and do a little bit of a rapid fire here with Louis, Mike, and Patty. By all means, anyone can just jump in and give just a very brief response to a few of these questions. Are there any tunes that are not good for fiddle contests?
Tunes with double shuffle and crossbowing, right? Depending on a tune of choice, right? If you're going to be playing Rubber Dolly with double shuffle in place of a reel or a breakdown, that's probably not a good idea. So unless you got a tune of choice happening, right?
Yeah, that the back bowing, the shuffle bowing is not the prominent part of the piece, right? Doesn't take over. Can you play Irish or Scottish tunes in a Canadian fiddle contest?
I would say absolutely. There's the styles that we all play across Canada encompasses all of that, and sometimes it's a combination of styles put together, French and Irish or French Scottish and that. So when it comes to the Irish and Scottish tunes, again, selecting something that will appeal to the audience, appeal to the judges, and have that danceability, and sometimes just picking one of those tunes in a key that will help and enable that. Patty had mentioned, she avoids minor keys for competition. I'd have to say, I think I did the same thing. I don't think I played any minor tunes when I competed. And so, a lot of great Irish tunes are in the minor keys, great Irish tunes. Would I play one of those in the competition? Probably not. I don't think it's the right card to play. But I would consider an Irish tune or a Scottish tune in another key other than the minor key.
Great. Let's remember this is the topic. You're a Canadian fiddle contest, so we're focused on the danceability and the feel and that tradition as well. But certainly, bringing a tune in that was written in Ireland or Scotland could very well fit the feel of the Canadian Canadian old time fiddling.
Exactly.
How about playing tunes that are composed by judges? Is it a bonus? Is it a good idea? A bad idea? Stay away from it.
It depends who your judges are. If you're hiring judges that are up for bribes, then sure. But if it was Louis, Mark, Mike, and I, that wouldn't matter.
It's almost hard to avoid these days, and we're going to be hearing from Calvin Volrath here shortly, and it's very hard to go to a fiddle contest anywhere in the country, anywhere in North America these days, and not hear a Calvin Volrath fiddle tune.
Agreed.
Let's all tell 3 people that it is a non-issue.
That's right.
Play what you want to play what feels good to you, and what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Where am I at here? Can someone just talk a little bit about intros and outros? Louis, certainly when I was growing up and listening to you compete, you were always coming up with these prolific endings to tunes. And, now it's almost a par for the course that you need to have a flashy ending on the end of your reel. Is it necessary? What role does that have with the tunes?
Well, I do have to say, Mark, an ending and a flashy one is pretty well necessary. It's your signature out. Thank you very much. It's one of those, right? But endings in intros and outros. Intros are extremely important. You want to make sure that you've got a solid beginning on your tunes. When it comes to endings, your waltzes and your jigs, you don't necessarily need a special ending for those. On a reel, I always like to add an ending for a reel. I really do, and in most cases, I will make a new ending up for just about any tune I would compete with, or if I'm teaching a reel to a student, I would make up an ending for that particular tune as well. My 2 cents here for the intros and outros. Once you have them, when you're practicing, you don't necessarily have to practice all 3 tunes full through. You should do this often. Start the waltz, solid beginning, and go right to the end. Like when I say go to the ending, start the waltz, end the waltz. So you're playing maybe 20 seconds of it. Okay, start the waltz, end the waltz, start the jig, end the jig, start the reel, end the reel. And that way you're practicing your intros and your outros, and you're just getting a solid ground on those. And I think that's important.
Great, thank you. I think it has a lot to do with some personality. You want your personality and your character to come through, and your heart, right? So if there's an opportunity to put that forward and have a little sparkle and have that shining through, I think that's a good thing. How about tunes that you've composed? So I get up there and I play 3 tunes composed by Mark Sullivan. Is that risky? Is it who cares? Whatever floats your boat. Any thoughts on that? Maybe from Mike. Mike, you're a prolific composer of tunes. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's doable for sure. Like, especially now more than ever. Maybe 30 years ago, it was a different story. Now you're hearing all kinds of original music happening, especially in the bigger competitions, the Grandmasters, Pembroke, Shelburne, and everywhere pretty much nowadays. I think people are getting more and more inspired to write. So even if intermediate players, I've been, even for years, I remember hearing people that were writing their own tunes, and sometimes they're maybe in the early days, maybe it wasn't such a good idea, but if a tune's a great tune and it's getting your feet tapping and it makes sense and it's musical and you're seeing a reaction not only from the audience, but even if you have open judging, you're seeing their feet are tapping. That's a good sign, So you just want to be able to make sure that tune that is going to be original can stand up to any of the other traditional or cover tunes as well. So I think
great,
that's
Mike.
kind of the key component for me.
I think you're right on.
Great.
Thank you for that. It really needs to check the boxes, doesn't it? It needs to be danceable, needs to feel good, fit the tradition. But the contests have evolved and the music has evolved as well. And there's so many new and original compositions out there. And all the tunes that we all used to compete, those were original compositions. At one point, they were new. So thanks for sharing that. We're probably going to go for about 2 more minutes, everybody. We think a lot about and we hear a lot when we're watching a fiddle contest of the younger players. I think of the 12 and under class, the 18 and under, maybe even the open class. And it just sounds like everyone is putting in variations of tunes. They're putting in hot little licks here and there, taking an old time tune and improvising slightly, though it's prepared and planned. If I'm listening to that and I'm in the 19 to 49 class or the 50 and over, is it necessary? Should I be, if I'm going to get up there and play the Swamp Lake Breakdown, should I be trying to add in something fancy halfway through? Do I have to? What role does that play?
I guess you're asking anybody here, Mark.
Yeah.
You've got a good point on that one, the way you've laid it out, Mark, and I see that was one of the questions as well. And I think you want to kind of be careful with how much it's changed. Again, when you're playing a waltz, jig, and a reel, you don't want to do a whole lot of improv. I mean, if you're in a competition and you've got a class that you're playing a tune of choice, there's your chance to do what you want to do, and when it comes to improv. I know myself when it comes to waltzes, jigs, and reels, if I make any changes, it's ornamentation. It's maybe changing a little bit of the timing or the rhythm again. Back to that again. So changing the rhythm maybe a little bit, and maybe if there's a section where there's double stops and you decide to take that out, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I would say it's okay to make some changes to adapt it to make it your own. But I think there's a bit of a fine line there, just to respect the composer's pieces as well too.
I would just like to add, if you're gonna add anything in there, just make sure it's tasteful and that it
Yes.
complements the tune rather than takes away from the tune as
Hmm.
a whole.
Good point. I would say too that you're not going in there to rewrite the tune. You're not like a co-writer, so don't lose track of of the main picture, which is the tune itself. You're going to augment to supplement the tune, as opposed to take it, and rewrite it and put your name or credit on there.
That's
So
great, Mike. Yes,
keep
that's
that in
excellent.
mind.
That's
Both
great.
you and Patty, that was great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said, all three of you.
Yeah.
If there's something that truly is you're inspired by, and it's complementing the tune and the feel, then absolutely there's a place for it. So well said. Thank you. We're going to close this portion of the evening out. I want to just express a sincere thank you on behalf of the Wild Rose Fiddlers to Louis and to Mike and to Patty for joining us. What an honor and what a treat for the 111 people online, 100 plus, as well as those that are watching online elsewhere. So thank you so much for taking time to join us. It's been really great. Everyone give Louis, Mike, and Patty a big wave.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much. It's been a pleasure, a huge pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you,
for
Mark.
now.
Thank you.
And just a friendly reminder before we jump into the second topic tonight, if you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them. And of course, many of us, we know one another. So if you have any lingering questions, send an email to the Wild Rose or track down Patty, Louie, or Mike online on Facebook. And I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have. I'm also just going to insert a link here in the chat for everyone. Once again, if anyone feels inclined to offer a donation to the Wild Rose Old Time Fiddlers Association, the link is there. Thank you all again for joining us and participating. Moving on to topic number 2, and this is a great one. In fact, it was hard to talk about topic number 1 without addressing this a little bit. And the second topic has to do with overcoming nerves and the fear of competing. And as a competitor, I've been there, and I know that there are many competitors out there today, obviously. So this is a topic I think that is really worthwhile. And it's my pleasure here to introduce the lead panelist tonight, a friend from Victoria, BC. I'm going to put Miss Yvonne Hernandez's website link into the chat. Can everyone just give a round of applause and a wave to Yvonne Hernandez? Hi, Yvonne. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you.
Thanks so much for joining us. You're not too far away from me.
No, just across the water.
Yvonne is an award-winning fiddler, a Juno Award winner, Canadian Folk Music Award winner, prolific competitor, Western Canadian Award winner, Music Award winner, Grand North American Fiddle Champion, and on and on and on. So she's coming at this with a ton of experience in not only in competing, but in performing around the globe as well. So thanks so much, Yvonne. And joining Yvonne, we have gathered some friends and competitors to speak about this topic of overcoming fears and nerves with competing. I'd like to introduce you to a wonderful player, Mr. Colton Bear. Everyone give Colton a wave. Great old time fiddle player.
Hello.
Hi, Colton. Nice to see you.
Hi.
And I am looking here for our other panelist. Miss Donna Ingram, where are you, Donna, so that I can get you on the screen?
Waving. I'm waving.
There you are. Donna, thanks so much for joining us here. One of Canada's chief fiddle supporters and fiddle camp enthusiasts and competitors. Thanks so much, Donna, for sharing your experiences here with us tonight. And finally, I'm looking for Jennifer DeForest. Where are you? Originally a fellow Ontario, and there she is. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you guys as well.
So we're going to jump right into it. Again, everybody, if you have questions or comments, just drop them in the chat. We're talking about overcoming the fear of competing. I know that there's people out there that have never competed before, and we tried to make that clear in the invite to everyone that if you've watched a fiddle contest or you've just been curious about them, been nervous, never competed yourself, you should come tonight and hear some thoughts. So I'm just going to pass it right over to you, Yvonne, to get the conversation started.
Okay, well, I have a lot of experience with nerves from performing and competing, and I know all of you guys do as well. So I will just share a few thoughts that I have that has helped me, but also that I have been told along the way that might be good suggestions. I don't always do the exact same kind of ritual before I perform or I compete, but it is definitely there are a few things that I would do, and I've tried a whole bunch of different things at different times. It is nerve-wracking playing, in front of anyone, as we all know, especially if it's, a new piece or whatever. But my classical violin teacher when I was younger um, always got me to start a new piece and then go into a lunch hour series, like a workshop type concert, that you could just sign up and play one short little piece at on Fridays between 12 and 1, just to kind of get in front of an audience. And he said that if you can, if I started the piece just like on the Monday or even the week before, and then the following week I was having to perform, it was very like maybe 3 other people who were probably also performers, but just to get it out there, that he said that it was super helpful because you kind of get all the bad bits out right away, and then from there you know what the parts are to work on, whether it's like watch your tempo, whether it's, oh, this is a really hard part, or my bowing's all crazy, or I was really sweating and I really need a chamois on my fiddle, or any of those kind of things. So it was terrifying at first, but then I totally understand why he was asking me to do that. And so I think one thing is, like, first of all, like, be super prepared, don't just go on the fly, like, what am I going to play today? All right, how about these tunes? Be super prepared, or as much as you can for that point. Try and play in front of anyone, your dog, your cat, your mom and dad, your friends. Practice in front of your own video camera or your phone or whatever. It's very accessible now, just so you can watch back and see, do I actually like the sound that I was making? Was the tempo okay? All these different things that you can try out before you actually get on stage to perform or compete. Eating a banana helps before a performance. If you didn't know that one, that's a good one. And I see a lot of people, and I used to do this a lot of times for the big competitions. Apparently the potassium chills you out a little bit, unless you're allergic. That might be something, eat a banana. What else? Rhythm. You tend to get into, oh, sorry. Okay. There tends to be like a stage vortex that we all kind of get into, and we're like almost panicking when we go on stage, whatever you're doing, playing. And I think it's very important to know that, and know that you're going to be in that almost panic or like go 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 kind of mode, and then play a little slower, just like chill it out a little bit, and maybe even close your eyes when you play. Practice this before, of course, but that definitely helps a lot. Just kind of getting in the headspace of like, okay, I have played it at this speed, and maybe when you practice a little faster than you might be playing it on stage, just so you have a little bit of a buffer area. I found that quite helpful. And when I'm practicing at home, preparing for whatever it is I'm preparing for, I imagine myself on stage with that different sound because it does sound different when you are playing in front of a microphone and there's an audience there and whatever. So for me, I often close my eyes and kind of imagine that sound, or maybe go to a bathroom that's big enough to play in because the acoustics are a little more similar to playing in a microphone, sort of, I guess. And so that's definitely and then just like visualizing what it's going to feel like potentially, even if you don't know what it looks like, or maybe you do know what it looks like and you're like, okay, this is what I think it'll be like on stage. I think that is very helpful. And also, if you have a time limit on your contest set, you need to like practice making sure that you don't play tunes 45 times and you actually adhere to the time limit. So know exactly how many times you're playing through your tunes. And don't try anything new when you walk on stage unless it's an accident and you're trying to save yourself, which has happened to me before. I started playing a tune once and I realized maybe Patty might have been in the audience and she was like cracking up after. I can't remember who was there, or judging, I mean. But afterwards, everyone could tell I was sweating because I played a reel that I had not played in like 7 years, and I just had to keep going. And I was like, oh my gosh, muscle memory, please let me get through this. Woo! And then of course, I got through it. But I wouldn't say that's a great thing to like dive into unless part of your tune is supposed to be improvising. But try and just you know have it in your back pocket to know what you're doing. So those would be my little suggestions anyways. I know all you guys have a ton of awesome thoughts and suggestions, so that's me. I'm gonna pass it on back.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. Lots to unpack there, and obviously, what stood out there, the banana, first and foremost. Great suggestion. And the preparation piece, again, talked about it in the last session. Being prepared certainly helps, and putting that practice into not only with the tunes but visualizing the space that you're going to be in. I remember there was a period when I competed and would practice in front of a microphone and actually walk up to it, set the microphone down at a particular spot, and just really try to put myself into that forum. So preparing, visualizing, and you use some great words there that I think we can all connect with. You use the word terrifying. Yeah, it can be totally terrifying. So we all relate to that. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm going to pass it just through Colton, Jen, and Donna here as competitors and as players. If you have an anecdote or can share a few thoughts on nerves and the contest anxiety, playing anxiety, that would be wonderful. Colton, I'm going to pass it right on to you.
Cool. I totally agree with Yvonne. You said you started playing a different tune, so you had planned to play one tune and started playing a different one. So I had really terrible nerves at it was just this year the last year at Prairie West, the one that they put in Strome. And I had planned to do some fancy intro to Art and Marg's reel. And I went on stage and I got too scared to play that intro, so I just played the same intro that I would play for Big John. And I ended up just starting Big John and then quitting halfway through the tune because I wanted to play Art and Marg's reel. And that was the worst decision I could have possibly made. And I probably would have been better off if I just kept playing Big John McNeil. But so the idea is that I get nerves all the time. And it was just recently where my uncle had taught me this cool thing, because it works nerves anywhere, right? But it really helps when you're competing, is breathing as deeply and as calmly as possible, relaxing, right? Specifically right before you're about to go on stage would always help me if I just breathe as deeply and for as long as possible. And especially if once you're sitting there waiting right before you go on, that's where you need to just not really worry about what you're about to play and just level yourself, right? And it helps so much. For me, it helps a lot more than practicing crazy, right? Because before I would go on, I would be practicing consistently throughout the day. And sometimes you start over practicing, right? And you start to really stress yourself out too much, and it really would help probably to just give it 20 minutes and relax, and then come back to it, you know? And so, yeah, for me, like my main thing was always just breathing and being calm about it. And like you guys talked about in the other bit of the workshop that you don't want to like you want to pick reasonable tunes, right? Like you guys said it a few times, just don't change anything. Like don't make sure that you're prepared there, and don't try to play anything that you're not too comfortable with, right? So like as long as you know your tunes back to front, then you don't really have a lot to worry about except for making sure that you play them properly. And so like, the idea, yeah, I've done it so many times where I tried to play something that I knew I barely knew, but thought I could make it through in the moment, and it never worked. So I think it's best case scenario to make sure you know what you're going to play back and forth. And yeah, other than that, like those are the main two things that always worry me in competition. And don't worry about anybody else's in the category. Like I would say, like I would always watch their sets, but essentially just like to be, you know, respectful. I wanted to see what they were doing, but I never wanted it to stress me out. So sometimes I wouldn't, but it depends on who's competing. But yeah, it's always yeah, I think just calm yourself, ground yourself, and don't overcomplicate your sets. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Colton. Appreciate that. And thanks, everybody. I realized there was a bit of an echo there on your end there, Colton, but we could hear you. Thanks, everybody. Great points. Breathing, you know, finding some ways here to not get overwhelmed with what's happening, right? The preparation piece is great, not overcomplicating things, sticking to really what you do and what you know well. Thanks for that, Colton. Donna, let's turn it over to you.
Hi. Well, I've been playing fiddle for many years, and I've got a PhD in anxiety for fiddle competing. That's the way I'd explain it. And I find that over the years, I've been able to now take what I've learned is you are a commercial. You're a 45-second commercial, and and sometimes your mind can be your own monster, and you just have to get out of that. You're there for 45 seconds to play at the best of the ability that you can. And it doesn't matter what else is out there. But also, it's taken me many years to get there. I still have a hard time competing. I have anxiety getting to the contest. My last fiddle contest, I went to John Arcans. I drove to a different province. I changed my strings on my fiddle, left it on the table. And then when I went to compete, my fiddle case was empty. So telling you how anxiety that would bring into a competition, I find it's about being prepared. And another thing that I would say, I am getting better at it, but the banana trick absolutely works. But if I could just say one thing is it's hard to get out of your head and into the music, because your mind can play a funny thing, and by the time I get a little bit of anxiety, by the time I walk up those stairs, I've already feel that I've lost the game, because I'm a little bit panicked. But just taking that step back, and I find now that realizing that I'm just a commercial. I mean, I present for a living, but not when I have to present myself on stage, I get a little bit nervous on it. But I find that now that I'm taking that out of the game, I'm getting a little bit better. And the comments that I get about breathing, if we would have had this 20 years ago, I probably would have a trophy kicking around in the back of my place here learning. And also having the different keys, I thought I would take my very first competition, I thought I would play everything in G, so I knew where all my fingers would be, and I didn't have to get all figured out where C and D and everything went. And playing the Gilbert Anderson's Road song jig doesn't work for you, and you don't really get too many things going for you, because it is true about anxiety. But it is fun when you take the anxiety out of it, and you know that it's about fun. You're not losing you're not losing your house over this thing. It's a competition with family and friends, and it's a 45 or 1 minute commercial. I find that sort of it's changed my game. And the support of the fiddle community, whether you hit the ditch or don't hit the ditch, it's all about experience. And I find that the more you do it, the more you walk up those stairs and do your 45 seconds or 1 minute and walk down, it just makes you stronger for the next time round. So it's helped me. and it's about bananas. Don't change your strings before you go somewhere. Don't forget your fiddle, and be prepared.
Donna, thank you so much. Just, overwhelming. That's about attitude. I appreciate every comment you just made there. And thanks for bringing some fun and just a real positive message there about this topic, to not, helping all of us just not get overwhelmed by it. I love that you talked about that. Hopefully already there's people out there whose minds are being put at ease just about this whole business of competing all together. So thank you. A PhD in anxiety. I appreciate that. And fun, the message behind all this as well. So thank you for sharing all of that. Jennifer DeForest, care to share a few thoughts with us?
Hi. Well, definitely. I have to say, I was really kind of laughing when I first got the email invitation to do this because, I'm honestly not a success story yet. I'm definitely a work in progress. And yeah, I had a really good laugh. But, there's so many different things that I personally experience when I am there and getting ready to perform. And it took me quite a long time to figure out that almost everybody else is feeling the same way too. So some of the things that I experience, I get a terrible tremble, and I get it in my jaw. I get it in my shoulders. It comes out of my fingers. I start getting dizzy. Other people are sometimes getting dizzy, and freezing cold fingers. So, whenever I go to a contest and I decide I'm going to do this, I make sure, even if it's July at Radway and it's going to be 40 degrees, I bring warm things because my hands are going to get cold. I try and make sure I bring my own food, and I am also all on board with the whole banana thing. I try and lay off of the sugar, lay off of the caffeine, stay away from things that will make me even more jittery, and trying to find a delicate balance between hydration and drinking way too much water so you have to zip to the washroom 100 times. When I'm there, I try and breathe deeply, just like Colton was saying. I try and make sure I get it all the way down into my diaphragm. It really makes a difference. If you are even sitting or standing with your shoulders inward, and you're feeling nervous, because all the time, like when we're nervous, physically we'll tend to clench upwards, right? You'll bring your shoulders up to your ears, your shoulders might come forward, your body starts closing, and you can actually force your body to start relaxing at least a little bit if you push your shoulders back, start breathing, bring your shoulders down, and conscientiously think about the positioning of your body. As for the shaking, I haven't quite worked that part out yet, but you can improve that experience. And I find like I can prepare, and I can feel like, okay, I've chosen things that I can play, and I've played them, and I will still go in there and I will still hit the ditch. But I guess the testament to having been prepared is that I don't stop dead in my tracks, and I just try to keep on going and dust myself off. And in the end, it's really just supposed to be a positive experience so that you can go back and do it again. It's not really a measure of you as a player or whatever. It's just you in your minutes trying to get through it as best as you can and enjoy it as much as you can. I think some things that I find to be the most useful when I start having the physical nervous energy is looking for a place to put that energy. So before it's my turn, I'll probably try and walk around a lot. I'll try and move my arms a bit, move my fingers. I might chew some gum. Donna taught me that. Donna taught me that when we were at Johnny's, and I think I nearly fainted off the stage. So after that one, I started chewing some gum, and not obviously, not loudly chewing, but just having something in my mouth reminded me to breathe a little bit. And when you're up there, try not to just play, try and shift your weight around on your feet a little bit, because if you are really, really nervous and you are feeling physically almost paralyzed, you can release some of that by even just shifting your weight. So I think that's really all that I have to share for now.
Thanks so much, Jen. Appreciate that. That was very relatable. Thanks for sharing some of those personal experiences, like trembling and shaky bows. And I think there's a lot of people out there that can relate. Probably wondering, what does it look like when you get nervous and have anxiety? Well, that's what it looks like, right? The bow starts to shake. Our fingers get sweaty, and just how to fight through, and as you said, just kind of dust yourself off and keep going as well. So thanks so much for sharing all of that. For the next just maybe 5 minutes, I'm just going to go through some of the questions and comments here and have a rapid fire here with the panelists. Either of you, please jump in. I just wanted to share this one comment that Nan Butler has shared with everyone. So my goals have been: don't fall off the stage, don't faint, and don't cry. So far, successful. It's great. It puts it in perspective. So rapid fire here, as quickly as you can. I know this is maybe, for us as fiddle teachers, music teachers, this is a long pursuit. It can be. What about the shaky bow syndrome? What do you do? I'm even before I start competing, I'm worried about that my bow is going to start shaking. How can I overcome that?
Is this just anyone?
Yeah, either of you jump in.
I think that's everybody ever, always. Mark and I used to compete together, and it was a pretty heavy duty time. And everyone was freaking amazing, and I would be wanting to watch everyone, but I'd also be terrified, because if I didn't keep practicing, I would be not ready. And so warming up my body, because we essentially, as my physiotherapist says, we are sedentary athletes. So we are athletic, but in upper, and we go, jamming for hours and playing for hours and practicing, but we have to get our body ready for that. And so part of that is having complete control of your bow arm. So if you feel like you have a heavy arm, because sometimes your bow might be on the lighter side than somebody else's bow, and you just might be a lighter player, I think having a heavy bow arm from here really gives you a lot more control. Having a really good setup with your bow hold gives you a lot more control over your sound, so you're not da-da-da-da-da. But still, I still get nervous, and I'm like, oh, I feel like my bow is just like an earthquake has hit my right side of my body. And, I feel like it, everyone can hear it, but nobody else can actually hear it. It might just be in my head, because that's just where I am at that moment, So if you just have as much control as possible and just hope for the best. And breathing is a big thing. And just, just try and focus on what you're playing, and just imagine yourself at home in your living room practicing, and not on stage in front of a whole bunch of people or judges or whatever. I think that really, sorry to go on. But I think
you. Thanks, Yvonne, very much. I appreciate that. Moving on here to just another comment or question for either of you to jump in on. What happens if you make a mistake? And as many of you said, you hit the ditch halfway through the tune. How do you recover? Any suggestions?
Keep going, finish. Yeah, don't stop. I've done it so many times. Do I sound any better, or is it way worse? Way better? Okay. All right. Yeah, don't stop. Like you'll panic for sure. I can't imagine a situation where you feel great about the fact that you just messed up. So like the idea is just don't stop. You could recover. You know, there's ways that you could recover, but don't try anything too incredible. Just keep going. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I love that. And as a competitor and as a judge sitting there, more often than not, if someone stops in the middle of a piece, you know what happens? The audience tends to applaud. And you know, the entire mood just dampens. So not to worry, we're all behind you. I just wanted to share a comment here. I'm wondering if I could just fly through Yvonne, Colton, Jen, and Donna to say one thing that comes to mind here for Mr. Bertrand, who's in the audience here, who's saying he's getting ready for his first ever fiddle or competition. So these tips are helping a ton. So let's all say one thing to Mr. Bertrand here if we can. Let's go right through. I'll go Yvonne, Colton, Jen, and Donna. First competition, one thing. Go for it.
Just smile and have fun. It's only a competition. It's only 4 minutes of your life. You'll be fine. You'll survive. Just
exactly.
Enjoy.
Practice, have fun. It's a lot of fun. We can't hear you.
Chew gum, so it forces you to breathe. So you need oxygen in order for clarity. So make sure you can chew a little bit of gum so it forces you to breathe.
There.
Jen, quick tip.
Move a little bit. Don't stand perfectly still. At least try to shift your weight while you're playing. And practice. When you're practicing, stand and shift your weight while you're playing.
Thanks so much. We're going to wrap up this portion of the workshop here tonight. I'd like to just say a big thank you again, and once again on behalf of the Wild Rose Fiddlers, to Yvonne, to Colton, to Jen, and to Donna. Could everyone give them a wave and a round of applause for participating tonight? Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us and putting this on. Good job.
Okay, we're going to jump into our third and final topic this evening. Once again, this is being put on by the Wild Rose Old Time Fiddlers Association. If you feel inclined to donate via PayPal, a link will appear shortly in the chat. And thanks so much for your support. Really, what is shining through here this evening is this great community of fiddle players and community of music we have here in the country. And with that last topic, dealing with nerves and anxiety, we're all behind you and we're all supporting one another. So hopefully everyone is feeling that. And thanks to the Wild Rose Fiddlers for giving us all an opportunity to feel that and be together in this setting. Okay, moving on to our third and final topic. I'd like to introduce several players here and musicians that are going to be talking about technology as we're preparing these days for virtual fiddle contests and playing online. Obviously, we've all had to up our game in the last year and become tech savvy in our own way to make sure that our fiddles are sounding okay, our voices are sounding okay. So we've brought together a group of players here that have a lot of experience in the tech setup, certainly over the past year and beyond, specific to fiddling. And if you are keen and if curious and will be entering a fiddle contest, a virtual fiddle contest sometime soon, I know this is going to be helpful for you. So I'm going to start by introducing Mr. JJ Guy. Let's have a round of applause and a wave to JJ Guy. Hi, JJ.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So nice to see you, JJ.
Beautiful. Good to see you too.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here.
Star of Jammin' with JJ online. I'm sure many of you have been with him in that setting. So JJ certainly can speak from a pretty recent experience here with playing fiddle over the computer and sharing with all of you. So thanks so much, JJ. Coming up next year, we have no stranger here to online fiddle contests. and performing in music. He's just released just a fabulous album that's being shared worldwide. And so great to have you with us here, Alex Kusteruk. Let's give him a wave and a round of applause. Nice to see you, Alex.
Hey, Mark. Hey, guys.
Great to see you. And also, I'm just looking for Mr. Jared Albright. Nice to see you, Jared. Thanks so much for joining us. Give him a wave, give him a round of applause.
My pleasure.
And what a great setting you have there as a performer, a composer. Recently, if you're on Facebook, many of you are, you've probably seen Jared popping up here with just some beautiful interpretations of traditional fiddle tunes. And if you're like me, you're looking at the microphones and looking at that setup here. So Jared, hopefully you've got some hot tips for all of us here. Thanks so much for joining us. And last but not least, my pleasure here to introduce no stranger to all of us in the world of Canadian fiddling. Let's give a big wave here to, if I can find you, where did you go here? Did he just sign off?
Ta-da!
Mr.
Ta-da!
Calvin Volrath, give him a wave and a round of applause. Just going to find you here, Calvin. And
well, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I see him.
I can't see you.
Well, I'm clapping. Actually, Calvin can't make it. I'm his stand-in for this evening.
Are you? There you are, my friend. Calvin Volrath, let's give him another wave and a round of applause. There he is. Nice to see you, Calvin.
Good to see you there. It's nice to be here.
Calvin Volrath, a legendary Canadian fiddle player, composer of hundreds and hundreds of fiddle tunes, and no stranger to recording, prolific albums, recording fiddlers and musicians from all around the world, and sharing his music online as well and streaming. So lots of experience here to share with everyone around tech and making sure our fiddles sound just right when we're competing at a fiddle contest. So thank you all for joining us. Just around the room quickly, where is everyone coming from? JJ, where are you tonight?
Saskatoon.
Saskatoon. Alex?
Alberta in Cold Lake. I wanted to say Bonnyville, but I'm in Cold Lake now.
Jared?
Cold Lake.
Calgary.
Calgary. Calvin?
St. Paul, Alberta.
Wonderful. And I'm with you from Abbotsford, BC. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to turn it over to JJ Guy to talk to us about tech tips for fiddling online.
Okay, well, if you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago about tech stuff, I would have said, well, I almost electrocuted myself with a toaster. But I was taking a bath at the time. So, but anyways, I mean, for me, one of the big things that I've learned is controlling the situation, controlling everything. So and there's certain things you can buy that'll help you control things, like as far as I'm even just going to talk about the visual just for a second. Like the visual, even here I've hung up a bed sheet, which makes a nice backdrop, and you don't, being as cheap as I am, I didn't buy the proper posts that you can buy like photographers have. I just actually hooked it up to mic stands with clamps, if you can see what I've done there. So that's one way of getting around things. There's always ways to kind of get around controlling certain situations in the room. And the other thing with lighting is a lamp can be your best friend. You can buy ring lights, which I've been tempted to buy for a while now, but I've been able to control stuff with lamps and lights in the room to get mostly shadows off the face. And so that, and the last thing I'd say about visuals, and this is kind of, everybody wants to look good, right? So it's important, it's nice to have when your camera or phone or computer is on you for a visual, is to have it kind of coming at you at eye level or up above. If you've ever taken a selfie with your phone and you've held the phone down here, and take one up here and you'll see which one looks better. So that's kind of the visual end of things with that. But the other end is controlling the room. So what I find is, often as fiddle players, if we play, by ourselves and we're not recording anything, we'll walk into a stairwell or a bathroom where you get all that natural, lovely reverb and it's bouncing around the room and we're thinking, oh man, this sounds so great. But if you go to record in there, that echo bounces off, and the recording picks that up, and it sounds terrible. So deadening the room the best you can is probably your best for getting quality audio. So part of that is, hard walls, hard surfaces like a table are kind of your enemy, where blankets and a couch and curtains and pillows and even sweaters, if you hang stuff around the room, it all helps to a certain extent. The other end of it is getting rid of any kind of background noises that might pop up while you're recording. So refrigerators, I got a humidifier I unplugged here. So just different things like that help. And I made a whole list of stuff here. And the other thing I was going to talk about, if you're doing a session or a Zoom session or anything, setting up, like I set up behind a sheet here, setting up behind a window, you'll get that glare and that light coming from behind you, and it'll be distracting for people who are watching as well. So that's another thing to take care of. So I'm going to speak a little bit about streaming, because that's kind of what I have a lot of the most experience in. And when I set up streaming, now I do stream through a microphone, but I realize a lot of people here are probably just going to be recording and doing stuff just with one of these, an iPhone. So I'm just going to talk basically about the iPhone itself. So this is the rig I use. I have a tripod with just a clamp on for the phone, and it's very handy. It's one of the most useful tools I have. So if I could recommend probably one thing, if you're going to be doing a lot of recording with your phone, is to buy a tripod, or you can buy even just like a little tabletop tripod, this screws off of, that will clamp onto your phone. And so with your phone, you have two ways you can, it's almost tipped over me. You have two ways you can record with your phone, okay? So, we've all recorded from the front, and you record from the back. So the camera on the back is almost twice as powerful as the camera on the front of your phone. And there are four. Now, my phone is an Apple, so I'm going to speak kind of more specifically about an Apple, but there's 4 microphones on your phone. So there's one on the back here, just above this screen. There's 2 at the bottom here, where you talk into it, because after all, it still is a phone, right? And then there is one on the front, on the very top. So that's where your microphones are. There's 4 little microphones. Now, I tried to do research to see if any one was more powerful than the other, but I couldn't find anything on that. So I kind of have the sense that they all are the same microphones that go through there. So when you're recording, though, it's good not to get too close or right into your phone if you're recording just basically with your phone. But it's also good not to get too far away from your phone, because your phone will pick up that whole room sound. So getting in too close, you'll get that distortion end of things happening. Getting away too far, you're going to get too much of the room coming into your phone as well. So there's a couple of settings too if you're recording through your phone. So here's one tip. Maybe you're recording for the online fiddle contest and you're nailing your tunes. You're just nailing it, and then all of a sudden you get a text that goes bing bing or da 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 da. So if you're recording, put your phone on airplane mode, and you'll avoid getting all of that stuff. So that stuff will never come through. The other thing, in the camera audio settings, and this speaks of the camera, there's a whole bunch of different settings. Now my phone is 2 years old, it's an iPhone 10, but I can actually record in 4K at 60 frames per minute on the highest setting. But if you're struggling for space, you can put that setting down to 720 HD at 30 frames per minute, and that will save some of the space and bump up maybe the audio quality a little bit on your phone. And then the other thing is in voice audio settings on your phone. If you go in there, you can go, the default is compressed audio setting. But if you go to lossless settings, you pick up more of the room without compression on the sound. So that's That's another thing to keep in mind. So with the streaming, when I'm doing my little streaming session, oh, the other thing I was going to speak of, sorry, I should just talk about this, is now I've bought these. These are called vibration compression pads, and they go underneath a tripod, and they keep it from, if you're tapping your foot, they go under each foot of the tripod, and they keep your camera from jiggling and bumping and moving around. So that's one thing you can do. I mean, you could do it the cheap way, which is put a blanket under your feet and maybe put a blanket under the tripod, and that will gather that compression. And so I've even done pillows under the legs, like little pillows under the legs, but then it's trickier to get the tripod sitting nice and straight. So that's one thing to watch out with recording and doing that. So so with the streaming thing, when I stream, I tend to stream through an interface. So I have a little audio interface here, and when I'm streaming, and I've learned the hard way, you got to watch out. It's good to do test runs, right? So on here, there's always a headphone jack out. So you can hook your mics in, do a little test with earbuds on, or come out through a speaker and listen to it before you actually go. My Jamming with JJ is on Facebook Live, so sometimes I'll even record like on a blank a session that nobody has access to. I'll record a session and I can listen back to it and see if I'm getting any distortion or anything coming through there. There's also, on the interface, there's also these red little peak lights. If you see that red little peak light coming on more than a few times, you might have to crank the volume down because you're more than likely distorting on the other end as it's coming through. The other thing I learned as I went along, I've been doing a session with the Prairie Mountain Fiddlers as well, and I know there's some people from there on here as well. And we started. It was recommended to me that I plug directly through an Ethernet instead of streaming through wireless, and that makes a huge difference. Wi-Fi is so unreliable. Like it can be going smooth, and then all of a sudden it can drop off out of nowhere. So I've ended up hooking my mics in that. So I'm streaming through my phone. I bought this little adapter on Amazon, and it was like $15, I believe. And so I can hook my Ethernet, and I can USB my interface in there, and then I can charge my phone at the same time with this little lightning in. So that's a little adapter I found. But if you're using your computer, you can get one of these. It's a USB-C. That's what my thing takes, and I can plug the Ethernet right in on that. So that's a couple things that I have. I know there was more I was going to talk about, but I can't quite remember. The other thing I was just going to talk about is like if you do use a mic, a condenser mic, there are a few different settings on there, and you can kind of see right there. This is the direction that your mic is going to take. So one setting is going to be around the room. One is going to be using the front and back with the sides a little less. So, and then one is more of the front in a C. So those are little settings. I hook it up with of course, everybody's got a shock mount if you have one of these mics that it hooks into. And those are my tips for now. I might think of something later. I'm going to pass it along to my fellow colleagues who I'm sure have lots and lots of tips as well.
Thanks so much, JJ, the Elon Musk of fiddle streaming online. Thank you for all those.
We're going to the moon, baby.
Thank you for all of that. Right down to the folks listening, I'm sure, are taking a lot away from the background, the clamping, how a simple setup can really add so much to the experience for the listener, and then to have some insight into your gear as well. That's really helpful. Again, for anyone here, if you're missing anything, we're recording the session. By all means, reach out to any of the panelists over email or over Facebook if you have any follow-up questions. Thanks so much for that, JJ. I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Calvin Volrath in St. Paul, Alberta, no stranger to anyone in this room, I'm sure, to speak maybe a little more specifically about turning that computer on, picking up your fiddle and entering a fiddle contest, and maybe some things to watch out for. So, Calvin, take it away.
Okay, Mark, thanks so much. And JJ, such a good talk there. You went, you talked about lots of it and lots of the stuff that I was going to talk about. I find that I don't do a whole lot on my iPhone. I do a little bit on the iPhone. I found, when the pandemic hit, there was lots of people going online, playing live, Facebook Live, and I found lots of the audio was not real pleasant. I was happy that people were out there doing something, but the sounds were not always what I would have hoped for. And so when I got into it, I wanted to try to make it sound as good as possible. So I did a little research. I went and bought myself a USB microphone. This microphone, I don't need an audio interface. And it's made by a company called Yeti, Y-E-T-I. It's called a Blue Yeti. You can buy them absolutely everywhere. I think I bought this at the London Drugs, but you can get them at Best Buy and Staples and probably Walmart, whatever. And it has a USB cable. You plug it into your computer and away you go. And like JJ was saying, like his microphone, it has all these different settings to just pick you up from the front, pick up all 360 degrees. Sometimes I'll play along with backing tracks. I'm sitting in my studio right here, so I'll get my backing tracks going on some speakers here. Got to turn it up pretty loud, and I'm fiddling over here. And any time I've done any kind of a show on Facebook or Zoom, everybody always says, "Oh, the sound that you're getting is so good," which makes me feel good. Because it's really, we've practiced all our lives to, get a decent sound. And when Zoom came out, when in the beginning of Zoom in the pandemic, they didn't have great audio settings, but there's been so much music happening on Zoom. They've kind of gone in and they've fixed up lots of their audio settings. So I've shared a document with Mark. I'm not going to get into it too much right here because I think he's going to share it with you somehow and explains to you. I do pretty much everything. It's on my Mac computer. I'm on my Mac right now, my iMac. That's the camera that's looking at me. It's the Blue Yeti microphone. JJ, so important when he says, if you can plug your computer or your iPhone in with an Ethernet cable into your router or modem, this is so good. Wi-Fi is so unreliable. So when you get yourself plugged in with Ethernet, now you've got the absolute best that you can possibly have, depending on your internet connection. If you're in the country and you have an upload speed or download speed of 3 megabytes, well, you might be in trouble. But but if you plug in your Ethernet cable, at least you're going to get 3 megabytes. If you're on Wi-Fi, you might get 0.5 of a megabyte. So getting back to the Zoom audio settings, and Mark is going to share this with you. There's settings in there that it explains to you how, and it's so easy to get the best sound for music. I'm not sure, Mark. How are you going to share that with everybody? You're going to that to them?
I've just put 2 attachments in the chat here.
Oh, perfect.
So anyone can grab it there. Thanks so much for writing those tips, Calvin.
And will they be able to download those once they click on them? They can download them.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and it's really so important. Try to get the best sounds you possibly can. I know there's a fiddle contest. There's a few fiddle contests coming up. There's the Grand North Americans coming up, and it's going to be done on Zoom. And we want you to get the best sound possible. So you got to do a little bit of homework. You got to do a little bit of testing. And, hey, 2 years ago, I had never done anything like this on I have a recording studio. I know how to make a good sound come in a recording studio, but live on Zoom and live on Facebook. This is all new stuff for me as well. And so you can teach an old dog new tricks. I mean, this is a couple of years for me, and you can do it as well and get yourself ahead of the game. And that's about it.
Thanks so much, Calvin. Really a pleasure for all of us to hear some insight into your setup, and thank you for taking the time. Everyone, please, if you can download those attachments for Zoom audio settings and Zoom audio tips. I'm sure they'll be worthwhile for all of you. Thanks, Calvin. Let's pass it over to Mr. Jared Albright, who's looks like you're in a music store there, Jared.
I am. I'm fortunate enough to be able to borrow my friend's closed down music store. It makes for a nice backdrop and an excellent, humongous practice space where I can use it at 4 a.m. if I so choose. And
sure does.
when I so choose. It's great.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jared. Any tips and tricks here, or anything to complement what JJ and Calvin were sharing? Go for it.
Yeah. I'm not really I'm not super specialized in doing streaming things. I do a lot of I guess like pre-recorded and pre-videoed videos. So I was just gonna like do a quick run through of sort of the stuff that I ended up with before the pandemic and how I've kind of made it work, I guess. So I did have an interface already. So that's just the one I have, and it runs all my microphones. Regular computer, there's the mic, there's a camera I just happen to own. It's not a terribly good one, but it's the one that I have. And I'm using a little cheapy webcam here too. And yeah, I guess just I'll sort of do a little contrast of the different like the tech things that you can do. So like with the laptop, you sort of have this you have this camera that was added not as an afterthought, but the whole thing is set as not like it wasn't built to be a camera. So you end up with something, especially in low light, that looks kind of noisy. So it's grainy and there's no color correction. So it's probably not like you're not going to get the nicest video, even if you're controlling your light really well. It's that's at least my experience so far. And so I bought just this cheapy little webcam. It came with a downloadable app, or not an app. It was online anyways, and it allows me to change loads of settings like shadow and brightness and color saturation, and it makes a really big difference. Like currently I'm sitting in here with the lights off in the store and backlit, which don't do that. But it's enough and it still looks okay. So I guess with the DSLR camera there, I'm not sure this is gonna work. I'll share it anyways. So I've got behind me sort of that mic you can see, oops, here. That's sort of like the stage. Let's see if this works. It worked earlier. Nope, just frozen. Okay, well, is there a way that I could request a screen share? Anyway,
one moment, Jared. Sorry.
Not at all. So controlling the light in your room is going to make a big difference as far as how you look. Don't backlight yourself. I'm kind of like do as I say, don't do as I do, because I know I'm backlit right now with lamps. But natural light is a great way to let your camera not have to work very hard, and it will give you a crisp, clear image without too much noise. It's that grainy, you know, what it look like. Yeah, so I have sort of, here, I'm gonna give you a quick little tour here. It's kind of the same as with JJ. I don't really have the budget for proper lighting. So I have some lamps that I found in this shop. They're not even mine. Everything's just on random music stands, and I've got these paper towels hanging on mic stands as diffusers. So all that does is take away the harshness from from like like a direct light bulb face. So you can kind of see, like on my side, you can see the like harshness starting. So the diffuser just kind of adds the warmth and the light, but without harshness. In terms of microphones, like I just run the setup that I have. It's good to know your mics. The Yeti is a great mic. Everybody's kind of jumped on that train, and I'm all for it. It's a good way to get pretty decent quality and stream, and has those options. So I've done a couple live stream concerts with my wife, and we used the one mic I have that has the full around polar pattern. Like it picks up all around, and it's nice because we can both stand at that same mic and sing and play into it. And with headphones on, you can hear yourself too. There's some monitoring that happens over Zoom, I guess. So you can hear if you're too loud, too soft, if the mic needs to come up or down, and if you need to put your mouth or fiddle or whatever it is closer to the mic. It's just like a nice instant feedback. Like you'll know immediately. I was gonna, I guess, maybe just quickly touch on if you're doing this on Zoom. I don't know how it's gonna work with the accompaniment, or if there is accompaniment at all. But I would for sure recommend just pre-running a few videos just to see. I mean, obviously you want to do it to, as it was mentioned earlier, to hear how you sound, but also just to see what you look like. I'm a pretty big culprit of kind of just zoning out looks-wise when I play. It is a thing that like kind of should be addressed, and it's very easy to see it when you watch yourself. It's also not the worst way to like see if you're sagging or if you've got like a pancake hand or any of that kind of stuff. But I think, yeah, my goal anyways for future stuff is to look at the camera, try to look at least pleasant. A smile wouldn't kill you. Show a couple teeth. It doesn't, I don't think, take a whole lot, and it's just like a nice way to see what you look like and what you sound like. What else do I have here? So really everything that I've learned about audio and video has been over the last year and a half, and everything I did was just, I had a question and I Googled it. I don't really have any like recording friends or video friends. It's all trial and error, and it's totally doable. So if ever you're in doubt, like Google is one click away, and there's usually, I don't know, sometimes it's a frustrating 25-minute look, but sometimes the answer is like the first hit that you clicked and it was obvious. So it's totally doable. I am a bit of a Luddite, and I figured it out.
Thanks so much, Jared. Appreciate the insight and your experience. It was very encouraging and relatable. Thank you. To anyone out there, if things are sounding complex and overwhelming with anything you're seeing or hearing, at the very least, it might inspire you just to maybe double check behind you before you hit go, or just check the desk, see what's around you, and what the video is going to pick up. Zoom also has some great settings here, as we're doing tonight. You can record the video, so you can practice on your own and record yourself and play it back and hear what it sounds like to see if your microphone's working correctly. So a lot of great little takeaways, hopefully for you all. Thanks so much, Jared. Moving on here, and we're probably going to go for maybe about 10 more minutes, and then just ask everyone very quickly if they have any questions or comments. Please put them in the chat. But very happy to pass you along here to my friend and a great musician, wonderful fiddle player, and is certainly helping steer a number of virtual fiddle contests. Alex Kusteruk, take it away.
Hey guys, wow, what a great night. So much information, and it's great to connect, with such a great community. Like Mark said, the fiddle community is such a great thing, and what a great way to spend a Thursday night. So thanks, Mark. Thanks to the Wild Rose for putting this on. This is great. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff, since the pandemic started, and from Facebook live streams to, pre-recorded things. And I think, the first pre-recorded fiddle show that I watched was Calvin's CD release party. and I was blown away, with the video editing and the software, and how he was filming different things, and I wanted to know how to do that, and how he sounded so good, and what he was using. So I mean, I just picked up the phone and called him and asked, and we were out playing golf, and I picked his brain a little bit. So I guess first and foremost, if you're watching something online and you like the way it looks and the way it sounds, reach out to that person and just say, hey, what kind of setup do you have? Since this whole thing started, I have a MacBook Pro, I have the Yeti mic. I was in Staples, and I called Calvin, to ask if it was the right one to buy, and yeah, to just stay connected and ask the people that are doing it right. I've done a lot of work, on the Acapella app, and the Acapella is an app for iPhone. This has been unbelievable in so many respects. In terms of plugging in a mic to it, I have a cable just like this one, a USB to Lightning for my phone, and it's going in right now to my computer, a USB to whatever it's called, the MacBook one. Um, and acapella is such a great thing, especially for these. We're talking about fiddle contests, so these pre-recorded fiddle contests. It's a great way to play with your backup. And it's a great way to have some fun too. With this app, you can record the fiddle part, send it to your piano player, send it to your rhythm player, send it to a bunch of other players to play with you. And then when you receive them back, there's a function called collaboration, which is so simple. Like it's not a free app. I pay $60 for the year, and it's more than paid for itself. So I record my fiddle part, and then I press collaboration, and I send it to Tim, or I send it to my mom, or I send it to whoever I want to play for me. And sometimes they send it back, and I redo my fiddle and play with them. And that's a whole lot of fun. I haven't found another way, to jam with somebody besides for using this app. Mark and Cal have played tunes with me on it. My mom has done a lot of tunes with me, and it's you put the headphones on, and it's like they're right there, and you're with them with the feel, and it's fun. It's a fun way to practice. It's a fun way to record a video for a fiddle contest. A couple suggestions on that app though. Because it's iPhone, these are your stock headphones that come with the iPhone. Don't use these when recording fiddle. Okay, do not use these when recording fiddle, because you put your earphone in, and this is a mic. So if the fiddle's here, there's gonna be a whole lot of distortion, and you're gonna be very frustrated. And I didn't know that this was a mic for a long time, so I couldn't figure it out. But there's another adapter for that. I just use a regular set of headphones here, and I can plug that in to here and into the iPhone. So I mean, you put the headphones on, and there's such a great mixing function on that acapella app. There's so much involved. Like for EQ, it's amazing. Like there's a grand piano EQ, there's a rhythm EQ, there's a bass drum EQ. So when I'm playing with these players, I like to crank the low end and play and play hard with it, and it's fun. It's a blast, and it's easy to save your video, and send it to wherever. You know, I did a couple shows, you know, a couple of pre-recorded shows that were all a cappella videos. And I played with a guitar player from McMurray. Um, Mark and I had a tune. Me and Calvin had a tune. Um, so many of us, and it was pretty straightforward. You know, I would record the part, you know, with Tim, and then send it to Mark, and he would play it, and then he would send it back, and you know, I'm on my phone anyway, so I put the headphones on, and I just mess around with the settings, you know, and when I was happy with it, I saved it to my phone, and then put it into iMovie, which is it's very simple. It's very simple. iMovie, you can use it on your phone, or you can use it on your MacBook, whatever you want, and you can just put these videos into there. You know, I know that I don't know if you guys will watch the Canadian Virtual Fiddle and Step Fiddle Contest. All that is done on iMovie. You know, when I organized the Conklin, there was a fiddle contest, singing contest, and a jigging contest. I put all the videos onto iMovie, pretty much just drag and drop, you know, and then it was all there. We could judge it, me and Calvin, and once it was done, I could upload it to YouTube, you know. So it's this phone here, it's nothing fancy. I have the iPhone 12. To be honest, you know, I've spent a lot of money during the pandemic. I bought the MacBook Pro, I bought the iPhone 12, I bought the Yeti mic, you know, and I'm always buying stuff, you know, to just try to sound and look the best that I can, right? And the lighting that we talked about is so important. I just have a lamp that's shining onto the roof. Sometimes I get blinded, but yeah. So the acapella app is your friend. You know, it's a great way to collaborate with different players. And I strongly recommend when you know, record your fiddle part to give a count in, so then the guitar player can start, and then they can send it back, and then you can play along with them. And that way, you know, you practice playing with backup. You kind of have that extra little push to just go for it, right? And it's fun. It's really fun. Have put the headphones in, zone out, mix it, play like you can see it. It's all right in front of you. And if you press something that makes the fiddle sound bad, we'll just put it back and try something else. There's so much trial and error with all this tech stuff, guys. So be easy on yourself. Don't get frustrated. And yeah, my next thing personally is Mark's been putting out tunes, and they just sound and look great. So I'm gonna be calling Mark to see what he's up to, you know. And it's a way to connect. It's a way to see how Mark's doing as well during this, you know, and to learn something new and to implement that. So thanks for having me. So much great information, and I hope you all are doing well.
Thanks so much, Alex. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for sharing your experiences here over the last year, essentially over the pandemic. We're all in this together. We're all learning, and you know, as Calvin said, we're trying to figure this out. And you know, it's nice to hear some examples there, Alex, of the Acapella app, which has been really fun, that I'm sure many people have explored out there. And of course, things can get really complicated. And as Alex said, things can get expensive as well. But do they have to? So, you know, hopefully you're hearing that there's a lot of fun behind all of this pursuit of playing your fiddle and sharing it with people, right? So try out your devices, turn your computer on, hit record, try to see what it sounds like, and then go from there, and then start learning at your own pace. And seeing how you can maybe make some subtle improvements along the way, making some notes here, some things that everyone's shared here tonight, whether it's lighting or a microphone, or standing a little further away from the microphone or closer, all these tiny little things that we can all try. Just scanning the questions here. a lot of people there are saying thank you for that, and appreciating this session. And how it sounds like a full-time job trying to figure out the sound and do this. Well, we're hearing tonight from people here who've dedicated their life to music and are so passionate about it as well. So of course you have, there's a bit of an obsession with a lot of this too for us. So, but again, you take what you can away from this. Lots of suggestions here for microphones and equipment. I see a lot of people commenting and nodding along about the Yeti microphone, which is very affordable and seems to be working very well for picking up our instruments here. So hopefully you've taken that away. I'd like to just go around the room here very quickly. I'll go JJ, Alex, Calvin, and Jared. Very quickly share one disaster tech experience. JJ, go.
I got on mute here first. That might have been the disaster. I was doing a Zoom session once, and I had two mic. I was zooming through the computer. I was doing a workshop, and I was teaching with my phone over top of me. So I had two Zoom things going, and I didn't mute either one, and both were picking up audio, and I got this whirling audio thing happening, like this constant feedback thing, and I couldn't figure it out, and it was going live, and it was just disaster. So I had to leave the session and start over again without one of the devices. So, and I have more. I have lots more, but that's one.
Where to start? There's so many. One would be, I guess, recording the fiddle and not knowing that this was a mic because it sounded bad. And then, not doing a sound check and having echo and all that stuff when I was on a live show, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I've had any disasters yet in the pandemic Zoom Facebook world here in the last year, because I've done my homework and trying to get it right. But I gotta say, I did a show last Friday night for a group in Quebec called Brystonville Schoolhouse, I believe it was called, and it was myself and maybe 3 or 4 other performers. And after the fact, I got to watch the show afterwards. And there was a young fiddle player on the show that played after me. And we see her often on Facebook Live. And she always gets a great sound. On Zoom, she was playing with her dad, and the sound was not optimal for her. They hadn't done their homework to get, because Zoom is a different baby than Facebook Live, and so really you got to do your homework. And I listened back to my performance where I played maybe 4 or 5 tunes, and it sounded as good as I could make it sound, I believe. And I felt so bad for this young gal that played the fiddle. The sound was all and we didn't hear her play. And she sent me an apology after the show was over. She said, I'm doing one on Facebook Live tomorrow. Please come and have a listen. I play better than that. And I know she plays better than that. And her Facebook Live the next day was just fine. And so you just really got to do your homework and practice and do your tests and try to avoid the disaster.
Thanks, Calvin. Jared.
Well, I mean, I'm not super in the live world of all this. I have the luxury of recording myself and dealing with it later. However, that comes with its own problems when you're a bit of a numbskull. I have spent 2 hours on a take and had the video and the audio, 2 separate systems here, and brought it back in. And because it takes up so much room on your computer, you're trying to delete files all the time because you're running through all your memory. And I deleted the video files. So I've got a perfect audio take for a video and no video. Womp womp.
Thank you, Jared, for that. And I'm mindful of the thing that happens on my end all the time. You know, I'm sitting here tonight and I'm looking over my shoulder at that door behind me, expecting two young girls, my daughters, to come running in at any moment. So being mindful of the background is important and on my mind. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Everyone, can we give a wave, please, and a round of applause to JJ Guy, Alex Kusteruk, Calvin Volrath, and Jared Albright. Thank you, gentlemen. And to everyone else, thank you so much for joining us this evening for our Fireside Chat brought to you by the Wild Rose Old Time Fiddlers Association here in Alberta. It's really been a pleasure to be a part of this evening. Thank you so much to all of our panelists that gave their time this evening to be with us, sharing their expertise. And I truly hope that for all of you out there, you were able to take away a few tips and tricks, whether you are preparing for a fiddle contest, whether you were just interested in the topics, perhaps you're at home doing some home recording, you've been joining Zoom and jamming with your friends. Really appreciate you taking the time to be part of our fiddle community this evening. So thank you all. And a friendly reminder, if you're interested in donating to the Wild Rose Fiddle Association, the link is in the chat. Thank you in advance for that. And of course, I'm going to put a link in the chat right now for the Wild Rose Fiddlers in Alberta, who are hosting a fiddle contest in July, July 17th and 18th this summer. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can find them on Facebook or that website that I've just left there. Thanks so much, everyone. Nice to see you. Bye for now.
Thanks, Mark. That was a fantastic.
Really well done, everyone.